Hey there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gordo and I teach how to paint 3D prints. Today we're tackling the age-old question, to mask or not to mask. Now, masking is an important part of airbrushing. You see, airbrushing, as the name implies, the paint is driven by air and the air comes out of the nozzle of the airbrush in a cone pattern. Depending on your experience or the type of detail you are working on, may lead to overspray on areas that were not the intended target, and that is where masking comes in handy. Now, there are many ways to mask. You can use masking tape, a sheet of paper, and believe it or not, silly putty. Today I will go over 3 ways to mask and show you some examples of myself using them on my projects. The first method I have for you today is the easiest out of all 3, and that is using a piece of paper. Now, you don't need to use a piece of paper. It could be cardboard or even poster board. This method is very easy because there's little setup, but if done incorrectly, it can lead to grave mistakes. You see, paper, although flexible, can only mask in a straight line. You can, however, cut the paper to the shape you need, but since this is for a quick mask and this is time consuming, at that point you may as well use masking tape. The other disadvantages are that by being rigid, paper cannot achieve curves or contours, and you must hold the paper steady with your free hand while you hold the airbrush with your other hand. You can tape the paper in place, but if you're doing that, then you might as well just use masking tape. As you can see here, I am placing the paper in between the swords on Deadpool's back and his head. I need to protect his head because I was trying to achieve some zenithal highlighting, and the red paint being transparent would have been ruined if black paint had gone on his head. The amount of work that I would have to do to fix his mistake was not something I wanted to gamble on. So, to protect his head, I left the paper there. In this case, there was something that could hold the paper in place, but this is not always the case. In this next example, we will see how I use the paper mask on Michelangelo. I did a whole video of the painting of this Ninja Turtle. I will put the link in the corner of the screen and the description so you can watch the entire video. Here I tucked the paper in between his shell and his skin, but I had to hold the paper in place. I then moved the paper as needed to achieve the masking results I wanted. The second way of masking is with this thing we used as children. I am referring to silly putty. The way I used silly putty as a kid was to press the silly putty on a newspaper so that the ink would transfer to the silly putty surface. We did this for fun because in the 80s there was no internet, and this was considered fun at the time. The way I use the silly putty is to mold it around an area that I need to paint. Then the silly putty will protect the parts covered by it. Silly putty is easy to apply. Just roll it in your fingers for a bit to make it soft, and then mold it around whatever needs to be covered. After the painting is done, I recommend you wait a few, maybe 10 minutes to remove the silly putty. You want the paint to dry so that if you inadvertently rub the silly putty on the painted surface, it does not ruin the paint job. Here I'm applying the silly putty post-painting just to give you an example, as I did not originally capture this on film. Once I had it applied between the skin and the chest plate, I began airbrushing. The great thing about silly putty is that it's almost infinitely reusable and it's cheap. Only a few dollars for a pack of 2. The third and final way of masking I have for you today is liquid mask. Now this one is made by Vallejo, but it can be purchased from other manufacturers. This process of masking is a bit more involved and can be considered tedious by some. This masking is applied via bristle brush and is left to dry for about 10 to 20 minutes. Once it is dry, you can spray over it and it will protect the paint under. Here I'm using it on Deadpool to tighten some edges that were not to my standard. Once you finish painting, wait a few minutes for the paint to dry and you can begin the removal process. Removing this mask is simple, but it requires patience. I see some YouTubers having issues removing this mask and getting frustrated, and I do not blame them. Here I try to remove it by using a plastic toothpick to pick at the mask and then pull it, but I found that if you rub it with your finger, it comes off the same way we used to remove Elmer's glue from our palms as kids. You rub the dry mask with your fingers and it will roll right off the model, as you can see here. Now, this mask will set you back about $10 for a bottle this size. Unlike the silly putty, it cannot be reused and once it is depleted, you need to purchase more. Okay, those are 3 ways to mask your model for airbrushing. Please let me know in the comments below which of these you will try on your next painting session. Also, if you have any suggestions on what I should try next, please make sure to leave it in the comments below. Okay guys and gals, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe for more content. Please take care of yourselves and your loved ones. Peace.